Could you break that down? Like really, what is the difference between a 7, an 8, and a 9-figure business, and really those things that you implemented to continue to gradually grow and scale your business?
Definitely would love to hear how you applied it to Snow as well.
Yeah, for sure. We'll use Snow as an example. So, disproportionate skill set, I had already acquired that through web design. I can build a website, I can run the ads, I can media buy, I can SEO, I can edit photos, I can edit videos. So I self-taught 99% of my stuff at this point. And so I knew that I had disproportionately stronger skill set. I started with nothing. I mean, everywhere starts literally with nothing. So, but I had sharpened it so well that I knew that piece. So the 7-figure, I had a pretty good feeling that Snow would be a 7-figure business. Otherwise, I wasn't going to do it at that point. So it had to be a 7-figure business at least. And then 8 figures team. And so by this point, I had started to build a little bit of a name for myself and started to tap the network and be like, who's better than me at SEO? And then how do I support that person, convince them to join the team, and then do it again and do it again and do it again. And so 8 figures is really around other people. And that was something that I still sharpen today, and I don't think I'll ever totally master it, but it's so important being able to recruit a really, really strong team. It's actually, if you think about, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they have the exact same 24 hours as us. But when you have 50,000 employees times 8 hours shifts a day, you have a lot more leverage than the average human. So you've just cloned yourself essentially, right? And I think that's super important. You go, how can someone be worth 280 billion and is only 10 years older than me and had the same 24 hours and they started from nothing? It's some point of leverage, intellectual capital leverage, human capital leverage. And so you learn very quickly. I think for me, I was kind of a whiz kid, right? They kind of labeled me as a whiz kid and that put a lot of pressure on me. So every business I was trying to start was like, I used to Google, what was Mark Zuckerberg doing at 21? What was Bill Gates' net worth at 28? I was kind of, that comparison culture was huge, and I had to break up with that image and say, if I'm the smartest person in the room, and you hear this all the time, like this is the wrong room to be in. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to listen 2 times more than you talk, especially earlier on. And there's this form that Naval Ravikant talks about that I really love is there's 2 phases of your life and you can dip between the 2. And sometimes you can do both of them simultaneously, which is exploration and exploitation. Exploitation sounds a little bad, but that's the word that's used. Exploration is, I'll meet you for coffee. And back in the day, you want to meet me for coffee? I'd do 5 coffee meetings in a row, 5 lunch meetings in a row. Like I'd just do it all because I was exploring. Exploitation is like Marco Polo, they find silk, and then you build a business importing that silk. So exploration, as far as China, and then exploitation of what you've learned. And if you want to build something big, I've used this on podcasts before, and some people don't like it because it's an animal, but I said hunting elephants versus hunting rabbits. And you can take the analogy and do 500 variations of it. But if you want to hunt a rabbit, you can do it yourself, and you're going to feed yourself for a day. But if you want to hunt an elephant, right, you need a team. You need people to do that, right?
I love that word, yo. Yes.
So that's it. But that was team, right? So that was 8 figures. 9 figures is still team, right? You got it. That's got to be your biggest thing. I mean, I still spend today a disproportionate amount of time that people would expect on LinkedIn, and I'm poaching. I'm reaching out to people for paid consultations. So if we know that TikTok organic is going to be a really big deal for our business like Snow, which brands are crushing it? So I download a spy tool. I look at brands that are crushing it. I search the brand name on LinkedIn. I click on their employees. I use tools like Rocket Reach, Contact Out, Signal Hire. It gives me their cell phone from their LinkedIn. And I shoot them a text. And I say, hey, James, I'm a huge fan. Let's say you're the director of social media at a soap brand. It doesn't have to be in our industry. It's soap brand, but I know you're crushing it on TikTok because I can see through the spy tool. I can see how long you've been there, 2.5 years, and I can see on SimilarWeb, or I can see when the traffic spiked. I go, you You know something. You might not be the guy or girl, but you probably know it was there because you've been there for that time period. So I reach out to them and I offer them some cash if they'll take it for some paid consulting. It's like, hey, I'm in a non-competitive space. Would love to chat with you for 30 minutes. I'm actually building my organic TikTok team right now for Snow or for Nala or one of my brands, and hop on the phone with them. And I'm very successful with it. And it's very simple messages, just like what I said. But I'll send that same message to 5 to 15 to 20 people, depending on how urgent it is. And that strategy helps me on the 8-figure side, which is team, very big focus on team. How do you find these people? That's why communication is so important. I remember watching the very first Steve Jobs presentation of the iPhone, 2007, June, announces the iPhone. And I watched that thing like 5 times. And I was like, I know one thing for sure, I'm buying an iPhone. I didn't just at that age and at that time.
That was like the marketing 101 seminar, right? Where he used to,
man, he
the
gets up there for
right?
26 minutes or whatever, and just the way the intonations, the tonality, just genius, man. The simplicity, the imagery, visuals, just a big iPhone, and then 32 gigabytes or whatever it was back then, right? And he could have been talking about anything, and I would have bought it. And that was a moment where I said, wow, I've got to learn how to do that. And so you read books like How to Win Friends, Influence People, Charisma on Command. You start to understand, how can I convey my messaging in as effective as a way as possible. And then because my life has been spent in sales, I mean, it's what I do, how do I sell my vision to someone and convince them to leave an otherwise comfortable position? So when I do these calls, a lot of times, I don't mean to necessarily, I'm not looking to hire sometimes. Like most of the times I'm not looking to hire the person I'm talking to. I'm looking to get insight, fast track. Oh, well, we're using this software. We use the 5 others. I go, thank you. You just saved me 12 months and $100,000 of random software costs in 30 minutes, right? Then I'll ask them for referrals at the end of that. I said, do you know anyone that might be interested in this position? Well, why don't you send me the job description? I actually have a girl in mind. I think she'd be perfect, and I don't think she's happy where she's at right now. And I taught her how to do this, and she's crushing it. She's better than me. So now I've got a referral. I've got the insight. Now I've made a relationship. I can go back to this person. If we've exchanged a little cash for her time, she knows that she can trust that, I'm going to pay you for your time. I respect your time. And most of these people have never been reached out to before. The director of social media, maybe by recruiters, but not like, hey, I see what you built and I respect the heck out of it and I will pay you for your time. No one does that, right? Like, maybe the CEO, but everyone else on the team that's actually doing the work doesn't necessarily get recognized that way. And this is one of the number one reasons why people leave an organization. They're underpaid or under-recognized, And so that's 8. 9 is sales channels. Snow now is in CVS, Neiman Marcus, Saks, Nordstrom, Best Buy, Target, etc. From a retail perspective, we're still heavy on, obviously, on direct-to-consumer. We've had over 50 million people shop the website, but that was the area there is, okay, just say you figure out retail, or you figure out TikTok, or you figure out YouTube, or SEO, or one of the 50 ways, door-to-door. You figure out one of those channels and it's working. Some of them, if they're scalable enough, I mean, you can build a $1 billion brand on TikTok for sure. But you generally, you're going to start looking for other sources of that traffic and those customers coming in, right? So at that point, we said, okay, let's add Google, let's add Bing, the digital side first, which is what we're really good at. So let's add TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest. So you look at these channels, test budget, you kind of figure that out. And so you start adding these channels. Then it was, well, in my space, in oral care, most of the action happens still. People forget that they ran out of toothpaste when they're buying toilet paper at the store, or they're buying milk. So it's an in real life situation. And so we wanted to meet the customers where they're at and kind of build a brand that way. And so that's where we started our retail push about 3.5, 4 years ago. And we've been adding some incredible partners, like we just launched in Nordstrom nationwide. And so we continue to add to that retail stack. But then there's wholesale. Then we started selling to dermatologists, spas, dentists. And you kind of figure out, you don't need them all necessarily, but you figure out which ones are worth it. and then you become super competitive. You hire in there, you do my LinkedIn trick. That's when you really kind of, all right, we're moving into TikTok. And so you line up everything to go into that. And I look at it, is it profitable and is it scalable? If it's not profitable, probably not worth doing, right? You got to change that. If it's not scalable, how far can you really go? And some things you might have to do, like PR is relatively scalable. But at the time, I remember when I was even still running some of the media buying for Snow, I could go in and I could edit the budget, and I would say, all right, let's spend 50 grand today and see at a 3 times return on ad spend or whatever. And all right, let's spend 100K. Oh, we broke it. And then go back down. And so some channels have the ability to scale massively. But eventually for a 9-figure business and beyond that, you're going to have, it's about distribution. It comes down to how do you get more distribution, even if you're in a B2B space, how do you get more of that, of what's working. And if you're really lucky, you find 1 or 2 that just really take the pie and you can build long-term there. But if it's digital, usually those things change, right? Like Instagram, at one point, you could go viral on Instagram. Very difficult to do today. TikTok has taken that as bait to get people addicted to the platform, and it works. Because now Instagram's on its monetization path. A social network makes money, or grows in 2 ways, 2 main ways in my opinion. One, adding more users. Everybody has a Facebook account. So you're not gonna add more users necessarily. The second one is you charge more for the rent, right? That's really the only way to do it if you think about attention as a digital real estate currency.
Rent referring to as like ad costs and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah, why not? You're right. You've got, let's say you own in the physical world, you own a plaza, and you can't build more buildings. Let's say you're tied up. Well, let's double the rent and see who moves out. No one's moved out, or if they did, we replaced them. Double it again. So that's what's happening, and now they're looking at WhatsApp ads. They bought Instagram, which is genius. They bought more plazas, right? But at some point, if you can't add more users, you got to make more money per user that's on there. And if you're a free advertising-based platform, the ads have to go up in price. So now you're competing against someone selling a Bugatti and you're selling a toothbrush. They can afford 100 grand to acquire that customer. They're going to figure it out until that point. But there's TikTok and there's YouTube and there's Google and there's all these other channels. And it just depends on what you're selling, your brand. B2B is going to have LinkedIn, right? So it just depends on the platform. But these few platforms have network effects. And the people that create network effects are worth usually tens of billions. But and I'm not smart enough to do that. That's not my play. My play is to utilize those network effects to build a $1 billion business.